Dear Diary, today at spy school, I wore my cutest, most stealthiest outfit. It was different than my usual spy suit. I wanted to stand out and make my teachers proud. So today, I showed up in all camo. That's right, I wore a camo hat, camo pants, a camo cape, a camo bandana, camo glasses, camo earring, camo leg warmers, and camo boots. I also wore a name tag on my chest that said Secret Spy in bright neon pink letters. During the lecture, I couldn't contain myself. I shook nervously in my seat, waiting for the teacher to notice me. Minutes went by, then hours, and soon enough the lecture was over. But there was no way that my outfit was unnoticed, right? I mean, I wore my best patterns. Unless the camo worked too well? Could it be that I dressed so sneakily that I actually became invisible to the teacher? In that case, I must be finally ready to graduate as a spy. My teacher has nothing left to teach me if they can no longer detect my presence. I lingered after school to reveal myself to the teacher. I knew they wouldn't be happy about it. After all, what teacher wants to hear that their student has surpassed them? I approached Mr. Shadow gently by placing my hand on his desk with a deep sigh. I'm sorry, Mr. Shadow, I started, feeling the well of tears beginning to brim at my eyes. The truth is, I've actually been here the whole time. I do not look directly at his face when I say this. I do not want to break his heart. When he turned to me, I braced myself for the sappy speech that he might give to a student who's achieved total stealth and must graduate from the class. I didn't expect him to give me one last mission. Yes, Darcie. Actually, can you do something for me? I perked up at his words. This must be my final test to prove myself. I nodded vigorously, eager to take the chance. Could you deliver this homework assignment to Todd? He was out sick today. I took the stack of papers in his outstretched hands, eyeing them for some sort of clue. Is this a trick? Some sort of secret message hidden in the papers that only a real spy could decode? I held the stack of papers up to the light, inspecting it for any signs of a message written in urine. Mr. Shadow cast a questioning gaze, but didn't give me any further hints. Very well, I replied. I will deliver this assignment with the speed of a cheetah and the discretion of an owl in the night. With a salute, I turned away from the classroom and began my mission. Of course, rule number 1 is that a good spy never reveals their secrets. I had to hide this assignment from the world until I reached my destination. No one could see it or even have an inkling of my intentions. I decided to shove the assignment into the back of my shirt where it wouldn't get wrinkled. But more importantly, it wouldn't be seen. With every step, I could hear the light crinkling of paper behind me, which I cleverly covered up with a coughing fit whenever another person passed by. I barely made it out of the school without incident. First, a student bumped into me, probably because my disguise made me invisible to the naked eye. Then I was assaulted by the bus driver who honked their horn as I walked by. How they saw me was a mystery. Perhaps they were a secret enemy agent sent to track me on my mission? I couldn't let anyone stop me, obviously, so I opted to walk to Todd's house instead of taking the bus as I usually would. I was given his address. Todd lived in the center of the city in a bustling apartment complex. This meant that I would have to get through hordes of people without being noticed to complete my objective. It would be difficult, but not impossible. I kept a steady pace. If I wanted to avoid the main street, I would have to take a shortcut through the park. I turned into the park with little incident, seeing only a few children with their guardians scattered about the playground. I sped up to a brisk jog. As I passed by them, a small girl riding a Razor scooter skidded past me, catching my gaze. She stared at me long and calculated, as if seeing right through me. I didn't think there would be a child who could see through my disguise. Could this be one of those new futuristic cyborg children that have cameras built into their eyeballs? Eventually she spoke. Your outfit's funny, she exclaimed, pointing at me with an offending finger. I gasped, looking down at my own clothing. I wasn't sure what could be funny about my outfit unless she'd already detected the papers shoved into my shirt. Children were scarier and wiser these days, and I felt a deep chill run down my spine. What about my outfit? I asked nervously, struggling to hold back the fear that I felt. Well, it's so green, the girl replied, stepping off her scooter and handing it to me suddenly. Anyway, wanna play? She asked. What a clever distraction! Could this be a test from Mr. Shadow? She could be communicating with him right now, telling him my every move. My pride as a spy was on the line. I picked up the scooter, unsure how to proceed. "What do you want from me?" I asked with a trembling voice. The girl only shrugged, pointing again at the scooter. "I see." I realized that I had to prove myself, now or never. I stepped onto the scooter with my right foot, pushing off with all of my might. I decided I would have to pull out all of my tricks. I jumped from the scooter, spinning the base around 360 degrees into an epic spiral as I launched myself 50 feet into the air. "Hell yeah!" I screamed, flipping upside down onto a handstand. As I landed, I drifted the scooter around the corner, leaving epic skid marks on the pavement as a cloud of smoke emerged behind me. "How was that?" I asked, seeking the approval of the child. Her jaw was slacked open in shock. I also noticed that she had some ash left on her face that kicked up during my performance. "Wow!" she gasped in awe. As I returned the scooter, she quickly rode away back towards her throng of tiny friends. Consider this test passed. I saw her communicating with the rest of her groupies, pointing wildly in my direction. I must have gotten her approval, but I admit I felt a bit uneasy at the large amount of attention I was getting. After all, a spy does best with no eyes on them. Since I had passed this obstacle, it was time for me to return to the cover of the night. It was, however, only 4 p.m. The cover of night would be here soon enough. I carried on. Past the playground, I headed into the wild west of mountains just beyond the fencing. If I wanted to stay incognito, I would have to blend in with the trees. Of course, my disguise would be enhanced even more so surrounded by nature. My plan was foolproof. The trees were in full bloom, flowers beginning to sprout on their branches with the coming of spring. The path was steep, and I knew it would be at least an hour until I reached the other side of the hill. I trudged on, feeling the hot sun against me. At this time of day, the air was practically ablaze with heat. I felt the sweat trickle down my face profusely. Why had I chosen to wear the camel thermal underwear under my camo cape? I groaned at my own undoing. I would have to remove the camo hoodie. With a sigh, I stripped some layers as I walked. Unfortunately, the camo cape would have to go. I dug through the pockets of all my clothing, making sure I didn't leave behind anything important. For example, I brought a jar of tomato soup as a light snack. I felt my stomach growl with anticipation at the sight. Oh right, I skipped lunch today because I was so excited about my new disguise. I wrestled with the lid of the jar, trying my best to open it. I groaned, flexing my muscles as I worked the lid. It was no use. My hands were too sweaty. I had to find another way. I analyzed all of my camo-themed belongings, finally deciding to take off my boots. After all, they had 6-inch heels made of steel. They had to be good for something. Hoisting the heel in my hand, I raised it high above the jar and collected my strength. With another ear-piercing yell, I slammed the heel into the jar of the soup, feeling a rush of ecstasy at the sound of the glass shattering. Ah! Yes! I jumped for joy, kicking my heels together in midair. I had broken the jar open, and the shards of glass lay scattered amongst the dirt, with the tomato soup spilled unceremoniously onto my pile of clothing. Wait. It occurred to me then that I didn't bring another bowl, or a spoon for that matter, to eat the soup with. My clothes were all coated with the red substance now, which was starting to look more like a crime scene than a midday snack. Oh, I whispered, facing the consequences of my actions. I couldn't be here any longer. Now that the deed was done, I turned swiftly on my heels away from the soiled clothing articles. The remainder of my hike was easy without wearing so many extra layers. I was almost at the bottom of the hill when I heard rushed footsteps approaching from behind me. My head whipped to see a disgruntled lady jogging towards me. "Oh my goodness!" the lady exclaimed. "Are you alone?" The question caught me off guard. Why would she want to know that? Could it be that she's judging how easy it would be to steal the homework assignment from me? She was just one person. Even when I used my ninja senses, I couldn't sense any accomplices around her. It must just be the two of us. Yeah, I'm alone. Why? I asked carefully. If necessary, I would use my secret attack, a pile of sand in my pocket that I could throw into her eyes to blind her. "I think someone was murdered out here," she cried, looking around frantically. "I saw a pile of clothes covered in blood on the trail." Blood? My mind raced. I hadn't seen anything like that on my way here. Could there really be a murderer out in these woods? A sense of duty welled up within me. As a super spy, it was my job to protect the people of this city. It's dangerous out here, ma'am. We should get out of the forest. I will escort you myself, I said with a charming and charismatic smile. The lady looked flustered, probably because she was overwhelmed by my pheromones. I took one of her hands in mine and placed my other arm around her shoulder. You're safe with me. You see, I'm actually undercover. I mewed my jaw muscles intentionally until I was the spitting image of the Chad meme. She seemed swayed by this, and we continued along the path. Tell me more about what you saw, I prodded. Were there any weapons on the scene? The woman thought for a moment, then shook her head. I left as fast as I could, but I do think I saw several shards of glass on the ground. Glass, you say? I entered my mind palace, the possibilities swarming in several directions. Bazinga! I pointed into the air dramatically. Could it be? A glassmaker who escaped to the woods to work on a stained glass original art piece was followed here by their jealous apprentice who stabbed them with their own tools of trade? This was the only logical conclusion, and it was serious. We had to get out of here, and fast. To take matters into my own hands, I lifted the woman off the ground and bridle carried her down the hill. Again, I was drowning in sweat. I hadn't done that much physical exertion since 5th grade PE. Okay, I panted, letting the woman down as I collapsed onto the floor. You should be safe now. You should definitely alert the authorities about this matter. I spoke between breaths, my vision swirling from exhaustion until I finally closed my eyes. If this was a test, it was a cruel one. I woke to the feeling of water droplets hitting my face. I see. I'm finally drowning in my own sweat. As my senses returned to me, I realized that I was outside and still alive. I rose to my feet. Had a whole season gone by in my comatose state? The summer ended and now the winter began? Nevertheless, I had to complete my mission. Todd would be getting his homework assignment even if it killed me. It was nighttime now as I walked into the city streets. Cars were driving by for the after-work rush, and people huddled hurriedly underneath umbrellas. This was for the best. In the storm, no one would bother paying me any attention. I could do my duty without any more disturbances. I walked with purpose, staring down at my feet. I had left my boots behind with the tomato soup, so now my socks were getting fully soaked with every step. It made me sick. When I finally arrived at the apartment complex, I was so disgusted by my soggy socks that the nausea got the best of me. As I approached Todd's doorstep, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I knocked once, then keeled over onto my knees. As the door swung open, I couldn't contain myself. I heaved the contents of my stomach onto the open doorway, most of which was just rainwater that I accidentally drank today. What the fuck? A voice rang out, slamming the door in my face. No, I begged. It couldn't end here. Not when I'd made it so far. I knocked once more. Please, Todd, you need to let me in. My fate depends on it. There was no response. Of course, this was probably part of the test. Mr. Shadow wouldn't let me get to the entrance so easily. He probably informed Todd of my arrival and instructed him to lock me out. I searched for another entrance. There had to be a way. There were a couple options. I could break through the window, but I already threw away my steel-heeled boots. I could also try entering through the chimney. If Santa Claus could do it, so could I. I paced down the halls until I found a ladder leading to the roof of the complex. I climbed it slowly, hoisting myself onto the outer ledge of the building. In the rain, my grip was slippery and I could feel my socks slide against the metal rungs. I reached the final rung when I felt my foot slip and my hands give way. Luckily, I was close enough to the roof that I could do a triple spin in midair and grab onto the roof awning to hoist myself up. Heh, rused again. Classic spy maneuvering 101. That was child's play. I cackled, stretching my neck and feeling a new rush of adrenaline course through my veins. I caught sight of my target, the roof chimney, and I marched towards it with purpose. This was the final stretch. It was about the right size for me, so I decided, YOLO! It's my final mission after all, I had to go all in! I put on my goggles and jumped in head first. And then everything was dark. It felt like my bones were shattering as my body slammed into the bricks on either side of me and I landed on a bed of coal. My head pounded, but I was probably okay. I heard the distant cursing of, "Holy shit, how did you get in here?" from Todd as he approached me. I couldn't make out his face. My vision was fading again, but I had made it. With a shaky hand, I ripped off my shirt, to which Todd screamed in terror. Inside the shirt was a crumpled, soggy piece of paper that I picked up gleefully. "Todd," I moaned. "Mission accomplished." "What are you saying?" Todd questioned in astonishment. "My mission, to deliver this homework assignment to you." With a weak grasp, I shoved the paper towards his feet. "Take it." Todd slowly picked up the paper. "This is my homework?" he questioned. "Of course. Make sure you complete it fully, okay?" I let out a chuckle, resting my cheeks against the cold wooden floor. If this was how I died, at least Todd would pass his classes for me. "You're a good kid. You've got a good head on your shoulders. Unlike me. I think I cracked mine." Anyway, Todd, in life there are two wolves inside of us. One is sick at home, and the other goes on to become an excellent student. You must live on, Todd, in my stead. Todd crouched down until he was eye level with me. Thanks, but... He put the assignment back in front of me. "I don't think I can fill this out." What? Was he telling me to live on and finish the assignment myself? The sentiment warmed my heart, enough that it felt like my wounds were healing. My soul was so full of joy at Todd's consideration that I suddenly had the energy to open my eyes and rise up again. Now that my vision was clearing from the power of love, I focused on the assignment. That's funny, my vision must not be totally clear still. "No," Todd replied. "The ink is just smudged from the rain. It's unreadable." And my heart sank again. Unreadable? Whoa, what do you mean? Can't you fix it? I don't think so. No, Todd, we have to fix it. There must be a way. I looked to the fireplace, my mind reeling. Turn the fire on. We're going to dry out the assignment. I don't think... Turn it on, I commanded. And like my loyal servant, he did as he was told. The fire blazed brightly, and I admit it felt nice to be around a warm fire after being out in the rain so long. But this was for the mission, of course. I held the assignment above the fire, staring at it unblinking. This must be how man felt when he first invented fire. The possibilities were endless. It was like magic, so surely it could revert the state of Todd's homework. I got closer and closer to the fire, and the paper felt hot to the touch. It was as if an orchestra was playing a dramatic ensemble behind me. I could feel the energy of the flames coursing through me and into the homework. The ink on the pages blurred and blotted and distorted again, until the door to Todd's apartment burst open once again. "Todd, did you throw up in here?" A kind, older voice rang out from the hallway. It must have been Todd's mother. She sauntered through the room, making a small sound of surprise when she caught sight of me. "Oh, I didn't know you had a friend over. I just received an email from your teacher. He sent me the files for that homework assignment you missed today, so I'll go ahead and print that out to you." Her eyes lingered on my face, but she left to go to the printer. I see. So Todd would be getting his assignment after all. I rose to my feet, intercepting Todd's mother at the scene. "No, please, allow me." I took a seat at her office computer, scrolling through the file and pressing the print button. The lull of the machine alerted me to the successful delivery. I sighed a breath of relief, slinking back into the chair. A tear rolled down my cheek, but a smile creeped onto the edges of my mouth. Mission accomplished. XOXO, Darcie. Later, diary.